Me, you cheated. You blamed me. And now you want to be good co-parents. Him, I love you. I just want us to work. Me, after everything. After her in your bed. You think I'd fall for that? The entire room went silent when I saw you two. The shock on your face was priceless. I'm done. Beg all you want. 4 months. That's how long it's been since my husband packed a bag and moved into his mom's place. On a break. We called it a chance to work on things. But let's be real. The reason he left wasn't some mutual agreement, it was because I called the cops. Had crossed a line. Physically and emotionally. I couldn't just stand there and take it anymore. When the police showed up, he looked at me like I decommitted the ultimate betrayal. Like I was the one who broke our vows by protecting myself. My brain tried to process that stare. That accusation, how could self-preservation be a betrayal? But then, the fear had been so overwhelming. I just focused on getting through it. In the weeks and months that followed, I threw myself into therapy. I was determined to salvage what I thought we had. To understand what went wrong and how we could fix it. Every session felt like sifting through broken glass. Trying to piece together a coherent picture of our marriage. I kept thinking, if I do the work, if I understand myself better, if I push him to do his own work, maybe we can get back to what it once was. I'd come home from therapy sessions, my head buzzing with new insights, and immediately text him. How was your day? Did you set up that therapy appointment we talked about? I pushed and pushed. Because I genuinely believed we could overcome this if we both committed. My phone was practically glued to my hand. I'd call him multiple times a day, trying to bridge the distance that I had created out of necessity. Idaho drive over to his mom's house. Sometimes a few times a week. Just to spend an hour or two with him. Hoping that my physical presence would show him I was serious about fighting for us. I brought him food. I listened to him vent about his job. I tried to keep our conversations light and loving. To remind him of the good times. My goal was clear, show him, without a shadow of a doubt, that I wanted this marriage to survive and thrive. I wanted him to see my commitment. But his responses were always off. He'd pick up my calls sometimes. Sometimes not. His texts were often short. Almost dismissive. Every time I went over, I'd leave feeling more confused than when I arrived. He'd often say, you not being here. With me. Physically. It just shows me you don't want me. Or, if you really wanted this, you'd be here. It was like he completely erased the reason for the break, the abuse. The fear. The necessity of me calling the police. I'd sit there, trying to process his words. Does he really believe that? Or is he just trying to make me feel guilty? I kept wrestling with the idea that maybe I wasn't doing enough. That maybe my efforts, though exhausting, weren't registering because I wasn't physically there. 247. It was an impossible tightrope walk. I needed distance for my safety. But he was telling me that very distance was destroying our chances. I constantly wondered if I was misunderstanding him. If I was compromising too much or not enough. I wanted to fix things. But it felt like I was the only one building the bridge. And he was just standing on the other side? Watching me struggle. It made me wonder. Am I just delusional? Am I pouring everything into a relationship he's already given up on? Or am I just not doing enough to show him I care? Even with the necessary distance. How do you even begin to fix a marriage when one person's basic safety requirements are interpreted as a lack of love? Despite all the confusion and his frustrating accusations, I kept pushing. On Wednesday, I drove over to his mom's place again. We talked for a bit. Another one of those circular conversations where I felt like I was begging for reassurance he wasn't willing to give. I left feeling a familiar hollowness, but I still held on to a sliver of hope, telling myself, we're trying. This is progress. Even if it's slow. My goal, even then, was to find proof of his commitment, or at least a sign that he was truly engaged in fixing things. But a nagging feeling, a cold knot in my stomach, wouldn't let up. By Friday, that unease had festered into a desperate need for clarity. I couldn't shake the thought that something was off. My brain kept replaying his words. His distant tone. His blaming me for the physical separation. What if I'm wasting my time? What if he's not even trying? The question swirled, demanding an answer. Around 1 a.m., I found myself getting dressed. It was impulsive. Maybe even irrational. But I couldn't just sit there anymore. I needed to see for myself. I needed to know if my efforts, if our break, actually meant anything to him. I convinced myself I just needed to pop up. To confirm he was home alone. Still working on himself. Still committed to us. The drive to his mom's house was quiet. The streets empty. I parked a few blocks away. My heart thudding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. The house was dark. Save for a soft glow from an upstairs window, his bedroom. I found the spare key. Let myself in. And crept up the stairs. Every creak of the floorboards felt deafening. As I got closer to his door, I heard voices. Low, muffled whispers. My breath hitched in my throat. I pushed the door open. Just a crack. And there it was. My eyes adjusted to the dim light. He was in his bed. With another woman. My world tilted. The air felt instantly sucked out of the room. My mind struggled to process the image, the tangled sheets. The unfamiliar hair on the pillow. Her face. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a brutal, undeniable fact. He jolted awake at the sound of the door. His eyes wide with a mix of shock and something else I couldn't quite name, maybe fear. Maybe annoyance. What are you doing here? He stammered, scrambling to cover himself. The woman just looked at me. A blank expression on her face. My voice was a shaky whisper. What is she doing here? I demanded. The words barely escaping my throat. That's when he launched into it. His face hardening almost instantly. You're not around enough for me, he hissed. His eyes avoiding mine. She knows how to treat me. How to talk to me. You made me move out. What did you expect? His words hit me like a physical blow. But not in the way he probably intended. My brain, despite the shock, started putting pieces together. This wasn't a confession of guilt, it was an immediate, calculated deflection. He was blaming me for his infidelity. Using the very distance I needed for safety as his excuse. In that moment, watching him try to twist reality, I wasn't just heartbroken, I felt a chilling clarity. The problem wasn't my physical absence, the problem was his complete lack of accountability, and his need to control the narrative. Even when caught red-handed. It was devastating to see. But also incredibly revealing. I wanted to save our marriage. To understand and fix things. But instead, I walked into a scene that confirmed my worst fears. And then had those fears weaponized against me. I left the house in a daze. The weight of his words and the image of them together burning into my mind. I still can't quite grasp how someone can justify such a betrayal by blaming the person they hurt. The drive home was a blur of flashing streetlights and the deafening silence of my own thoughts. The image of them in bed. His flimsy, accusatory justifications ringing in my ears, it was all a visceral punch to the gut. You're not around enough. She knows how to treat me. His words, intended to wound and deflect, instead started to coalesce into a chilling clarity. This wasn't about my presence, it was about his convenience and his refusal to take responsibility. Later that morning, the phone started ringing. It was him. He called, and called again, leaving voicemails. I love you. He'd say. His voice thick with a fake sincerity. I just want us to be good co-parents. We can make this work. For the kids. Each call, each manufactured sentiment, was like a fresh wave of manipulation. My initial reaction was a surge of anger. But beneath it, a deeper, colder realization was setting in. He wasn't remorseful, he was trying to control the narrative. To soften the blow and dictate the terms of our future. Even after being caught red-handed. He wanted to pivot to co-parents as if his cheating was a minor blip. A reason to simply shift gears. Not a fundamental betrayal that shattered everything. I sat there, staring at my phone, letting it ring. My mind wasn't on co-parenting or making it work. It was reeling back through the 4 months of me pouring my heart and soul into this break. The endless texts. The constant calls. The therapy sessions. The desperate visits to his mom's house. All of it. And before that, the abuse. The fear. The night I had to call the police because he was hurting me. He saw that as a betrayal. Now, this his blatant infidelity. And his immediate attempt to blame me for it was a betrayal so profound it eclipsed everything else. I felt a profound shift within me. Every single thing he had done. Every lie. Every manipulative word. Every act of cruelty. Had slowly, systematically, poisoned the very idea of home for me. It wasn't just our home, it was the abstract concept of a safe, loving haven that he had made me hate. That night, catching him, then hearing his hollow justifications, didn't just break my heart, it finally, irrevocably, broke the illusion I had been clinging to. Looking at my ringing phone, then at the empty space beside me, a singular, powerful thought solidified: I am done. Completely, unequivocally done. There's no more going back. No more trying to fix the unfixable. He had made his choice, and I was making mine. I finally understood that walking away wasn't a failure to save the marriage. It was a victory for my own survival and self-respect. I needed to get this out there. To tell someone, anyone, that after all this, I am finally, truly free from the delusion of us.